What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Telling Lies, a game that I feel like I've just kind of always seen. I remember when it came out, and I just never gave it a shot. I never tried it, and it's celebrating its 5-year anniversary this August. I'm trying to nail the games that have the 5, 10, 15, 20, like the nice numbers, right? Those are the games I'm going for this year on this channel, and these kind of games I'm never all that opposed to. I feel like they're very divisive. There's always the discussion of are they actually video games? And we will talk a little bit about that. But honestly, I'm impressed. I got two main things to say to start it, and then we'll kind of go backwards. This is one of, if not, the weirdest game I've ever played in my life. And it's not even all that complicated, but just the way that you get into the game is super weird and super unique. And we'll talk about that because I was kind of blown away with the way that things worked. I even got some things to show you guys in terms of note-taking that I had to do. And then number two, I think this is a really good game. I liked it quite a bit. I thought the acting was good. I thought the story was good. I thought, again, it was very unique, and I'm really, really glad I actually gave it a try. So I want to just say that as we move into this, normally I don't do this kind of thing, but immediately as this game starts, I feel like you're going to give some stuff away. So without saying anything else, I feel like saying anything about this game, period, is a spoiler. Now, again, it's 5 years old, but if it intrigues you in any way, I don't want to ruin it for you. I don't want to ruin that initial, you fire up the game, what it looks like, and then what you actually do. I don't want to spoil that if you don't want to know. So I just want to kind of make that known. If you want to turn away, maybe try it out. It's on PlayStation Plus. That's how I played it. Free, just give it a try. Doesn't last that long. You're kind of on a timer, so you can't actually spend too much time in this game. I think it's worth it. Again, if you can kind of just get past, and some people can't, and I can respect that, but, this is a game where you're watching movies, you're watching home videos, you're not moving around, there's no action in terms of you controlling it, there's nothing, right? It's pointing and clicking, and it's the most simplified version of pointing and clicking you can possibly imagine. So that might be a turnoff for some, and I do get that. So, like I said, this game is 5 years old, and this is from Sam Barlow, who kind of does these things historically, right? He did Her Story, which actually, that's another one I've never played, but I do like these kind of games. I think Erica might be the name of it. I played that a few years ago. That's one where I think that's a little bit more interactive. It's kind of like a choice-based game, but it's kind of a movie that's playing out, and then it'll stop, and you make a decision, and it plays out. I quite liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it, but again, unique, original, whatever you want to say. And, these kind of games, they kind of interest me or intrigue me, where it's like, what can you do in the medium of video games, even though, you're trying to go a little bit, outside that bubble. But he did Her Story. He did this. He did Immortality, which I also saw a lot of people talk very, very highly about. Again, I skipped it. So it's not necessarily a trilogy, but he's done these type of games before Telling Lies and after Telling Lies. And actually, I haven't experienced any of them. This is the first one. And I feel like this is a good place to kind of jump in. So came out in 2019, did quite well, got pretty darn high reviews. People seem to like it. And again, the guy kept going after it to do Immortality. And like I said, I skipped down on it, but I always saw it. I always remembered it. And if you search this thing up, it's got a lot of attention. Back 5 years ago, there was quite a bit on it. There was videos that did really well in terms of just how do you play this thing, because again, it's a little confusing. So that's a little bit of the history, but I really want to talk just about what it's like firing this thing up and what you do. So again, if you're intrigued even a little, try it out. Don't watch the rest, because immediately from now on, even if it's not story spoilers, there might be spoilers on just the game itself, okay? So when I call this game unique, when I call this game original, when I say it's one of the weirdest games, so here's the thing. I generally, I'm okay having my hand held, right? I don't need it where you're constantly in my face and you're telling me how to solve a puzzle or whatever. And we've had games that are kind of too intrusive in that way. But I like maps. I like objectives. I like being told, at least in a general sense, what to do in a game. And then I will follow it and kind of maybe even find my own path, okay? A game like this really does not hold your hand. It gives you nothing, especially when you fire this thing up. There's apps. And as you start to read, you realize there's really only one important one, and it's the database, right? And it's the keywords. Everything else, it's there. I wouldn't even say for fluff, but it's just there. You can look at it, you can open it, you can close it. there's a timer. And when I say timer, I guess there's a clock. The clock is going to move. And in fact, I thought I had it figured out, but I guess I didn't. I thought like first I thought it was real, and then I thought, well, maybe it matches the length of the videos. It's kind of a mix of that. Like, I think it's a 6-hour stretch, but it's not actually 6 hours. It goes faster than that. I probably spent only about 3 to 4 hours in the game, and the clock went 6. So it's a little bit more than like the actual time. And that's all you're given. You're given a database. I think there might be a few videos to kind of start you out, but that's it. And it's like, okay, what do I do? Literally, what do I do? So I was opening and closing these apps. I was thinking, okay, like what's the point? Like, where do I even start in a game like this? And to put it bluntly, you're just supposed to kind of go. Here's how I did it, and I got things to show you. I watch these videos, right? And I start saying, okay, there's names, there's maybe locations, there's a key, again, like you see the thing keyword, and you think, well, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, where am I, how, is there a story? Which is the main character? Is there a main character? Like, I really didn't know. I saw this, like, I know the poster, so there's 4 of them. Do I have to follow one through? Like, I don't get it. And I was staring. In fact, actually, I think I wasted time in the clock because I was like, I don't know what to do. It took me a while. But I got to tell you, and I'll show you this. Maybe I'll hide like this part to it. I'll hide like this. Once I got going, I mean, you can't see it well. You can see like Emma, New York, Michelle, right? Like I don't even know. Maybe like 50 words. I would just click, right? Watch the video. And anytime there was a keyword, whether it was a name, whether it was a location, like who, what, when, where, like those kind of things, anytime there was any of that, I just jotted it down. And I said, okay, well, after this video plays, or after these sets of video plays, I'm going to type in one of the words that maybe Maxine or maybe Dave, again, like these are the main characters, right? You got David, Emma, Ava, and Maxine. And I kind of went on a journey with it because it's like, okay, well, you start with kind of David, and David's like the central character, right? He's the one who's actually attached to the other 3. In fact, the other 3 aren't really attached to each other at all. I mean, maybe Ava and Emma through David, but they never actually meet. So, I mean, it's really David's story, okay? And, and let me just actually say this before I get too far. They're really good. Like, these actors, the actor for David, really amazing. The actor for Ava, I think my 2 standouts were David and Ava. I thought, honestly, they were really good. And there's a lot of conversations in these videos where they're talking to each other. And I actually found that kind of weird, but also kind of interesting, where you can find the video from one of them. So maybe David talking to Ava, and you can watch David's version. And, he'll say things and he'll just like stare at the phone, right? And it's like, okay, well, clearly somebody's talking to him. And sometimes you don't know. Sometimes, like, again, you have to listen for these keywords. Is he talking to Mike? Is he talking to Ava? Is he talking to Frank? So you have to kind of listen, right? But it's cool to then find Ava's version, and then you see what she's doing, and, it's not all that much different, but maybe it fills in the blank. Maybe she says something. And I actually felt it was extremely organic, because here's the thing. You can do something like this wrong, right? When the whole game is based off of you hearing keywords, putting the keyword in the database, and then finding videos where that keyword was spoken, okay? Conversations can quickly kind of feel non-organic. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? If you build it that way, it might not feel like actual conversations. It might feel like, okay, did you craft the conversation because the person was looking for the keyword? You know what I mean? Versus the other way around. Versus it should be crafted as just, here's the conversation. Here is the base story. Here's what David is doing. Here's how Emma connects to David. Here's how Ava. Here's how Max or Maxine, right? Here's how these characters connect. And then, because you're listening, you hear keywords, you put those keywords in, and they unlock more things. And you can bookmark stuff. Actually, I didn't even do that. I mean, I just listened. I tried to, I kind of watched. I guess I watched the entire thing. But I was like, ear to the freaking monitor. I was like, okay, I got to hear everything, jotting things down. And I kind of just kept track in my head, and also note-taking in terms of the keyword. Oh, okay, well, I guess keywords, I did note-taking. The plot, I just did on my own. And here's the thing. I want to skip to the ending because I kind of want to talk about how it actually works so organically for me. I don't know this for sure, but I do feel like there's a wrong way to play this game where, again, like David is the central character. And you can look at the years, you can look at the months and the date. And so there is a path. And I started doing that kind of actually towards the middle of the game. I was like, okay, I really got to keep track of how they look, like what age I guess they are, but what comes first? Like, is he talking to this person first or that person? You know what I mean? Try to build the story. And really, you, the player, is the one building the story. But I want to jump to the end, so like severe spoilers in terms of the end of the story here. The second to last video, maybe third to last video, I was running out of time, and I was like, I need to see the freaking ending of this thing. I stumbled upon the ending of David's story where he, I got to be careful for YouTube, he eliminates himself, from Minecraft, let's say, and he's also doing the political stuff, right? Like he blows with the bomb and the bridge. So that was like the second or third to last video. And, I'm trying to process, like, okay, what in God's name was going on? But I also try to take a second, even though, like I was like, okay, I got to watch more videos. I got to see if there's anything else I missed. I felt really good about how the story unfolded itself. I really feel for the most part, I was actually following the story in like a logical way. And it's why I say I wonder, or I think there might be wrong ways to play it, because imagine if somehow I saw that in the beginning. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you can. I mean, I guess you probably could. You just need the right keywords, right? I feel like I legitimately followed it through, where he's infiltrating this, political organization. There's a bigger goal in mind, but he infiltrates the first group. He hooks up with Ava, but he's got a wife, he's got a daughter. He's on the side talking to, Maxine and what she's doing. And I felt like I was watching it in kind of chronological order. Now, not all of it. And there were some times where it's like, okay, this is clearly after, like maybe they're at like the political rally or, wherever they were, like making a statement, right? And then it's like, okay, well now there's things before it. But I really felt that by like doing these keywords and just keeping up, and I mean, I wrote so many down. I tried to be like, okay, here's names, here's locations, here's whatever. And I didn't even get too specific. That's the other thing. Like they are pretty basic keywords that I was just writing down. And I really felt like it flowed. And the reason I was spending so much time on this is I really feel like that is what makes this game the most unique and special. And it's why I warned about just base spoilers, even just looking at the first couple videos and in your mind kind of processing, what am I supposed to do? Now, again, this is somebody that, like, I knew of the name Telling Lies. I knew of the poster. I didn't know what you did. I mean, I knew it was video watching. I knew you would watch, like, live action stuff, but I didn't know what you do. So in real time, me kind of figuring out, oh, okay, you're supposed to listen to this thing and that thing, and it builds a narrative. And then you have all these characters that kind of connect, and it tells a story over maybe like a 2-3 year span of time, right? Maybe like I think 2017 to 2019, I think it takes place. So it's like you're building this, and it just kind of evolves. And again, naturally, or at least the way I played it, which I felt very good about at the end, two things happen. I followed it, I think, chronologically well enough, where it really felt like I was discovering the story like in real time, like as it was going on. And then also, I didn't feel like I missed too much. Now, just to be sure, I did watch all the endings, because the endings depend on who you watch the most of. And I was thinking, I knew that going in. So when the ending played, I was like, okay, well, actually it makes sense, because David's no longer around, and clearly I watched the most videos of David. I really thought I watched a ton of Ava videos, but I guess I watched more Maxine because I got hers. I got her ending, and it was like, okay, well, it was fine. It was okay. But I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I did, before I recorded this video, I did look it up. I watched the other two endings, because I guess technically there's 3 in all. And I tried to see like the entire plot. I think I got most of it. I think I missed some of David and his wife Emma, some of their background where he kills a guy actually, because I believe he's an abuser, and like there's a couple things there, and a few things with Ava, not I think Ava specifically, but some of like the other members of like the group that Ava's in. Some of that stuff I missed, and I kind of feel like that's cool too, because you're hearing them mention events. You're hearing them mention names or things that happen, and it's like, oh man, like, I got to figure out what that was. Like, do I have to go back, and do I have to kind of, you know what I mean? And you're trying to say, okay, well, what keyword could get me to, like, bridge or explosion, things like that. It's like, okay, well, how do I get to that? Like, I have to pick a keyword where one of these characters, and again, this goes, I think, to the brilliance of the writing. you got to think, okay, organically in a conversation, what are some words that a character might say to another character? Again, the dialogue is there, and then you're trying to pick, without knowing what that dialogue is, you're trying to pick words or phrases that you think they'll say in it. Naturally. So you're trying to think, okay, well, he might mention pregnancy or pregnant, right? Like maybe that word's gotta be said at some point in one of these videos, right? And then lo and behold, it is. And that kind of sense of discovery, I think, was super, super cool. And so, look, is the rest of the game like not good? No, I mean, I actually think the entire game is pretty well rounded. I just think the uniqueness of this discovery of figuring out what words to organically tell this kind of complex story with multiple characters and multiple times, again, like over a 2-3 year span, like a lot happens. And so to do that, I mean, that I think is the main strength of this game. But, you know, I mentioned these characters, and one thing I want to throw in, I should have thrown it in when I said how good, you know, specifically David and Ava are. One thing I noticed kind of early on, I was thinking, you know, some of these videos are 6 to 8 minutes long. I think maybe 8-9 minutes was like the longest video in the game. And I mean, you can fast forward, right? You can speed it up. But one thing I found super, like I would applaud them for, right, is yeah, there's a lot of breaks. There's a lot of times where, like I said, like David will say something and he'll look like this. He'll go like, you know, he'll look at the camera. He'll make a bunch of faces. There's times like that, but when I'm trying to think about it, or when I'm trying to like express to you right now, I kind of think, man, you know, it looks like they didn't cut. It looks like that was just straight, you know, going. And there was a time, I think there's one specific video, I think he was watching a movie and quoting some of it and reacting to like a movie in real time. I think Ava's like on the other side of the phone, and she's kind of watching like a online kind of date thing, right? And it's like an 8-minute video. And he just goes. He's eating popcorn. He's reenacting scenes from the movie. And it's like, I don't know if maybe they did cut a couple times and like spliced it together. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if they did it. It certainly didn't look like they did it. And I was just thinking, you know what? Number one, they generally were very good characters. Like, I think they were all believable. They were all very emotive and like expressive. Like, they did a really good job, all 4 of them. And there was a couple other, you know, more side characters. But like thinking about David specifically, Ava specifically, or maybe David just, you know, on his own, he was really, really good. Not maybe the best actual guy because of the actual story that's going on, but I was thinking, man, like this guy is like, you think about movies or television, like how long are scenes? They're not long. There's a lot of cuts. There's a lot of reframing. There's a lot of and this was, you know, it wasn't perfect framing. He's like kind of holding the phone on himself, right? But he's just going for like 8 minutes straight. And it's like, hey, if they didn't cut there and that was just 8 minutes of him acting, that's pretty impressive because you find me, except for like theater, except for plays or theater, right? You find me anywhere else that really does that, even in gaming. Gaming is voice lines. Gaming is, you know, motion capture. They don't go 8 straight minutes in motion cap. You know what I mean? So I think he did a great job. I think all of them did a great job because they all had moments where they're staring at the camera 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes. Pretty long stretches of time where they're doing these things. And, you know, maybe they're looking at the lines, you know, because technically they don't have to be looking at they're looking at a camera, right? Like the actual, like whatever camera was to record. Maybe the lines were like right above the camera. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they did it, but I would have to applaud them. And I guess the final thing to say, because there's absolutely no gameplay to talk about. You type in the words, and in my case, I use the PlayStation controller. Just type in whatever the keyword, you hit enter, you find the video, you could fast forward, you could rewind, you could speed up. That's it. That's the entirety of gameplay in this game. The only thing left is the story, which, you know, I kind of, you know, mentioned parts of it. I liked it. I didn't know immediately it was like a political time, and I don't even think it was all political, right? Because yes, I mean, like, he's an undercover FBI agent, right? And he goes undercover as part of this like activist group, and they're doing things and they're relaying info to the FBI. So it is a little political, or at least that part's political. But again, like as the story unfolds and you're like, okay, like him and Ava are clearly developing real emotion, and then he kind of gets too deep, right? Like I feel bad for him to an extent. I mean, he does do some stuff, and he's the main character, David, but he's also kind of the antagonist, I would say, of the entire game. Like he does legitimately cheat on his wife. There is one video I remember watching where The wife, I believe, is also undercover, Emma, and she, I think, like, actually, like, physically is, like, doing stuff with her fake husband. And I remember David, like, not liking that, but in also reality, he's doing the same thing to her. So, like, he's not great to Emma, and then especially reading, like, what he did to Emma's ex. So there's that part that I didn't know when I was playing the game. But, you know, him and Ava get together. He's got a wife. He's cheating really on both of them, doing the side thing with Maxine, just kind of, like, letting loose and just, I guess, using her to console him, basically, right? So he's not great, and especially at the end of the game, I mean, he loses everything, and, you know, that's going to drive a guy to do, I would say anybody, if you lose everything, you know, I don't think you're going to I don't think you're going to make the greatest decisions at the end of the day, okay? Honestly. I mean, that's just like real life advice or just things there. And he doesn't. You know, he makes a big decision to take himself out of the equation. And it was sad. It was like, oh, man, like I didn't, you know, that's another thing. Again, organically as the game is going on, I didn't know. Like, I sensed he was FBI. I sensed he was undercover. And then I started to type undercover, FBI, Mike, right? Because I think Mike's like his handler or whatever. So I'm starting to, like, type these words. But early on, it's like, okay, well, the name is telling lies, and it's clear he's got at least 2 relationships. I didn't really kind of put together the third one yet, but it's like, okay, well, he's cheating. So it's like, is that the lie? Is that like what? And then, you know, it evolves. It evolves into a legitimate backdrop story of what he's doing, what Ava's point in all this is, what Maxine is doing with her job, you know, all these things. And it's like, it really starts to open up. And I think the story is definitely solid. And I think, again, the intrigue of, like, figuring it all out and figuring out how these characters connect is really, really cool. So I enjoyed my time. I really did. I thought it was an interesting game. And you know, I don't know. I would argue, like, it is a video game. Like, it literally releases on consoles. But it depends on your definition, I guess, of video game. If you consider a video game, say, a game that you control a character, and that is most games, you're controlling a character, I mean, I think factually you can say you don't control a character. You know what I mean? You're literally just watching videos. But, I mean, there's a game aspect. You are taking in info. They're telling a story. It's not like Pixels or anything like that, but they're telling a story, and you're writing stuff down, and you're picking, like, the key words, and you're typing them in, and you're seeing where those videos lead you. That's the game. That's the playing part of this game. So, you know, I would argue for it, and I would argue that we definitely don't need, like, every game to be like this. Like, absolutely not. But I think there's room for a couple games, you know, yearly or bi-yearly or whatever. I think there's room for a couple games to be like this. It is very close to not being a game. I would absolutely understand that or say that. And it's why I wouldn't want every game to be like it. But you kind of can push the boundaries. And, you know, like I said, Erica is one that I just kind of remember. I can remember, like, the cover of that game. Like, that was cool. And I would say I absolutely liked that game. But this one was just so different. You know what I mean? It was more simple in terms of you're just watching. You're watching and retaining info and writing stuff down. In Erica, there's, again, these choices, and it's almost like a choice space, like a Supermassive game or a Telltale or Don't Nod. It's almost like that, but in live action. So in that way, this is a bit more stripped or dumbed down. But also, this has, like, uniqueness in a way that Erica can never have. You know what I mean? So there's pros and cons of, I would say, both of them. But overall, I'm happy I did it. I'm happy I celebrated the 5-year anniversary. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.